Just when America has reached a breaking point with division, visionary influencer Danni Benson's I'm Proud of You Sis bro movement taps into the pulse and heartbeat of a culture radically torn. But this loving mom's voice of reason and calm has received national recognition.
How do you balance having your children and always traveling with the Yankee organization?
When I became a dad, I said that I would always love like a mother.
I feel like I have to try certain things or act a different way because I know some people or some kids.
So join Danni Benson as she celebrates her special guests on her show and highlights their gifts and contributions to our world.
Hi everyone, happy hump day. My name is Danni Benson and I am host of I'm Proud of You Sis, and sometimes I'm Proud of You Bro, depending on who's on. I'd like to give people their flowers, people in our community who's making a difference that maybe not be highlighted, all over the world or, in our state or in our community. So I love to give people their flowers to let them know how much I am proud of them. And I'm so happy for everyone out here to join me. Please like, share, comment, and follow. I have an amazing guest. My friend Alethea Shapiro is here with her daughter Haley, and they recently just moved to Florida. And, Florida was devastated by Hurricane Ian, and Alethea and her family have been down there trying to advocate for people who lost so much of their personal belongings. And I wanted her to just bring a highlight to what's going on in Florida, because you know how the news cycle goes. Soon as something happens and then something else happens and people forget about what just happened. But there's still people out there that are still being affected to whatever we saw at that news cycle that just happened. So I just wanted to bring Alethea to the show with her beautiful daughter to talk about what is currently going on in Florida. So hi guys, how are you?
We're good. Thank you for having us on.
Thank you for coming again. I remember when Hurricane Ian was just about coming, and I called you and you guys were all huddled in one room,
Yes.
bracing we didn't know what was going to happen. And you know what? This past weekend was the 10th anniversary of Hurricane Sandy in New York. So you know how it happens. Here comes another hurricane. We don't really take it as seriously because they always say there's a hurricane and nothing happens. And the moment we kind of forget and don't really take it seriously, that's when sometimes it becomes the major hurricane.
Yeah. Yep.
So please tell me your experience going through Hurricane Ian in Florida.
So yeah, like you said, it's about 4 weeks now, a little over 4 weeks now. And like you said, the news cycle has moved on, but we are still reeling over here. The devastation is still very visible. A lot of the garbage and debris has still not been cleaned up. So it's a constant reminder, a very traumatic reminder of those 2 days. There's entire contents of people's homes still at the curb 4 weeks later. We still have the branches from our trees in front of our house. It's a constant reminder of, Hurricane Ian, and it was a near Category 5, and it was really one of the most devastating experiences I've ever lived through in my life. And other than Hurricane Sandy, it was really the only natural disaster I've ever lived through in my life.
And you know what's so crazy is, how old is Haley? Does Haley even remember Hurricane Sandy?
I remembered. I was how old was
It was 2012.
So I was 6 at that time. So I kind of remember it. And
how does it compare to now going through Hurricane Ian, because you're older now?
Yeah. So, the two just felt very different. Sandy was more, I feel like it was like a lot of like wind, like all of our trees were falling down. Here is just like we live on a lake and we're just seeing like the water levels rise, and they were kind of very similar, but obviously I'm going to remember this one better.
And all the flooding. This was
Yeah.
a flooding event, where
Yeah.
Hurricane Sandy was a wind event.
Yeah.
Really? And of course, when you live near the lake, I know that must be so scary because you don't know how high the water is actually going to rise. And I know there's some places that were heavily affected by the flooding with Hurricane Ian. So tell me your perspective of that. Like, what have you been seeing out there?
Well, I think the biggest problem with this hurricane was that it was very kind of unpredictable. You know, it was a little bit downplayed, but it was really forecasted to hit way more north than us, more of the
Yeah, it was supposed to hit Tampa.
Exactly. And so the hurricane started Tuesday night, and still on Sunday they were discussing it hitting Tampa. So unfortunately, a lot of people were blindsided, but most importantly were the Black and brown communities were completely blindsided, and a lot of non-English speaking communities were blindsided because a lot of these communities, a lot of the elderly were used to either getting door-to-door evacuation notices or, you know, alerts days in advance, where this hurricane really turned last minute. And so a lot of these people, a lot of the elderly did not find out, honestly, until it was too late, until either they were drowning or until they had to call 911 to be evacuated. And I heard that story over and over and over again.
Wow, that must have been so frightening. I mean, because everyone thought it was going to hit Tampa, and everyone was afraid that if it hit Tampa, it was one of the worst places to hit because Tampa is completely like surrounded by water.
Yep.
And it's you know how Florida is known is below sea level.
Yeah.
So they were afraid that it hit Tampa. So tell me how it affected your area then. Did it affect it was it like devastating? Like a lot of people lost a lot of stuff? Because I know over 100 people actually died in Hurricane Ian.
I've heard is that they consider a death when an autopsy is performed. So if they don't have bodies, they don't consider it as part of the numbers. And from what I was told, for example, well, first of all, I know the numbers are absolutely downplayed by Governor DeSantis because they don't want to, you know, be responsible for the neglect of their evacuation. But on Pine Island, which is a little island right next to Sanibel, I heard that 1,000 body bags were ordered just for Pine Island alone. And a lot of people haven't been found. And so we really, truly do not know the actual death count. But what I have seen with my eyes, what my family has seen, was what I would imagine a tornado looks like. Just complete,
like just destruction, like came in, like wiped everything out and just left it.
Yeah, debris, you know, someone's roof over there and someone's car up here and someone's boat upside down. And it was really not to be believed with the eyes. And do you want to talk about the fundraiser that we started?
Yeah. So like the first day after the hurricane, we went out and we drove around, or like what we could drive through, and like we like found this like little old lady like stuck in her apartment. We like rescued her, like took her to her friend's house. We drove more downtown in Naples
to Marco.
And to Marco, but we also drove to downtown Naples, and we just saw like houses so close to the beach, like little shacks can be like upside, like just everything destroyed. So we decided to just like start a GoFundMe to like help, just to help people that like we could, because you know, like with big organizations, you don't know when it's going to get to them. So we were just like, this is like immediate relief. And so we started like a GoFundMe, which raised over $30,000 to help with hurricane relief efforts.
Wow. And what was the name of the GoFundMe?
I think it was like, it was like,
do we know? I think it was just like a hurricane relief by
like,
Haley Shapiro.
Yeah, it was like Hurricane Ian relief.
Yeah. But you know, for Naples, it was primarily, you know, evacuation A is basically anything near the beach. And so we were in the B zone. And so anything that was really on the beach or within a few blocks of the beach was completely flooded, like 6 feet. Half of us, actually no, one-story houses were completely flooded in Naples. And a lot of the work that we ended up doing, we predominantly wanted to go into Black and brown communities, which were predominantly affected by this hurricane, and because of the climate crisis, and because of systemic racism, all this compounded to really decimate these communities. So a lot of the communities that we went to were, low income housing or mobile home communities. And so those communities really didn't stand a chance. I mean, the trailers were completely flooded, and we drove all around Southwest Florida. We went to Fort Myers. I spent 2 days on Pine Island. We were in Cape Coral, Bonita. I mean, Fort Myers was absolutely decimated. And Fort Myers
Myers, because that's a popular city.
Oh yeah, like 90% of Fort Myers Beach was demolished. And
Wow.
I always was interested in watching hurricanes on TV because, like you said, they hype them up, and you're tuned in and you want to see what happens, but you never know how the stories end, because, like you said, the news cycle it goes. And so now we are living the other side of it, seeing like nobody cares anymore. Nobody's paying attention. How does the story end? I don't know how the story ends, because what I see with my eyes is it is so utterly decimated. People are homeless. We don't even have good shelter systems for the homeless population. So we don't even have good infrastructure in place to take care of those who are already homeless. And now so many people who were made homeless by this hurricane. And so, we need FEMA trailers. We don't have FEMA trailers. It's just almost like the government is really nowhere to be found. Our congressman was in Arizona last night campaigning for the governor's race. A few days ago, he was in Georgia campaigning for Herschel Walker. It's like, why are you not in your community helping out the people that look like me and you? I mean, it's just the nerve to really abandon your communities in the greatest darkest hour of a lot of these people's lives. It's just unfathomable to me. So that's why, with our GoFundMe, we were able to be very nimble and to move very quickly, because, we don't have red tape like other organizations. And so do you want to explain what we did?
Yeah. So we would start off in the morning, going to Costco, doing a massive Costco run, diapers, wipes, food, water bottles.
Because that initial week, there was no food. There was no water. I mean, that initial week was like live or die. And the government was nowhere to be found. So we went to these communities. A lot of times we were the first ones on the ground. And so go on. So
we would go and make these massive runs at Costco, Publix, Walgreens, Walmart, and then we would just deliver it. We would maybe set up a table or go door to door asking people, oh, what do you need? Towards the end, we started making more baskets, more.
Right. Like after that first initial dire situation, until, until the bigger organizations got to the ground, which really took more than a week.
Do you think it took them that long because of the massive devastation, and it was just hard to mobilize and get things through?
I honestly don't know. I think, it just takes time. It just takes time for people to drive in. We had bridges collapsed. We had to assess the situation. And so I think it just takes time. And, people, when you're struggling, you just feel like, where is everyone? No one's helping. And so, we were able to do that initial round of, stopping the bleed, really. And then, like she said, then we kind of shifted more towards home cleanouts, where everything, because it was such a flood event, a water event, these houses, you got to start right away removing walls and sheetrock and furniture, because the mold.
So the mold is going to start immediately.
Yeah, so the last few weeks we've been shifting more towards the Clorox, the bleach, the disinfectants, all that stuff, rags, mops, to try to get the water out, to clean the walls. And the most eye-opening thing for me is, I mean, I've always been a person who feels very grateful, but it's really put into perspective what 4 clean walls really are, because so many of these people literally have no other option. They literally have to live in black molded walls. And a lot of these people are already suffering because they're low income, so they don't have good health care.
So what happens with the insurance? Do they have
a lot of these
home
people
insurance? You said a lot of people don't have insurance?
Because they couldn't afford it. And so, they were just keeping their fingers crossed that one day that, they wouldn't flood. So a lot of these people don't even have flood insurance. So they will literally lose everything.
So where does FEMA come in if you don't have home insurance? Do they replace your home or you just become homeless?
It's a really complicated process. And, I have grown up here. I speak English. I don't even understand. And I haven't even suffered through a home loss. The absolute trauma and the being shell-shocked of your entire house flooded and your furniture destroyed, how people are even having the strength to even go through the red tape.
It's
and
like they don't have time to process it.
Yeah, they haven't even had time to process it. No food, no nothing, no cars. So many cars were flooded.
Yeah.
So, that was why also what we were doing was very important, because people couldn't even get out of their houses to get supplies. So, the little things we did really made such a difference, because it was like, oh my God, you showed up with a mop? Like, I need a mop. Like, they don't have cars to get the stuff. So it's a nightmare. And the process, like you could imagine, is a nightmare applying for FEMA.
And it's like so crazy because, I'm here in New York and they talked about the hurricane. It happened. They talked about the hurricane before, then it happened. And maybe they spent like 1 or 2 days on it and they moved on. And the way that you're describing everything, I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
I honestly thought that, everything was mobilized down there. Everything was okay because they moved to the next, big story. You know how it happens here now, and to see the way you're describing that people are still in need and, a lot of people lost their homes. And I know flood insurance in Florida is really expensive. I know home insurance has even gone up during inflation. Okay. So I can't even imagine getting home insurance, and most home insurers don't even provide flood insurance. You have to get flood insurance through someone else. So now you're paying like double coverage for your home. You're paying home insurance to cover your house, and then you have to get additional flood insurance to cover, if there's a hurricane. So I can't even imagine the cost of getting these insurances living in Florida. And then you live in a mobile home, or maybe you can't afford it because inflation is going on right now. So people are cutting things out of their budget. And I can't even imagine then a hurricane hits. It seems like so much is going on all at once.
I think that like part of the issue is that anybody who knows Naples, they think of it as a wealthy area.
Yeah.
And that's, what I thought also. And so while this has been the worst of some of our times, the worst experience of our life, it's also been some of the greatest learning experiences. And it has given me an organic opportunity to go into these communities and meet people that I never would have met before and listen to their stories. And I learned a lot. And I learned a lot. If there was ever a question that there is systemic racism in America, this answered it, 100-fold for me, because, we had communities that were a half a block away from the government buildings that had no power. We had, and these were Hispanic communities. We had a historic Black community that is literally in the shadows of a multi-million-dollar complexes that had no power. Why?
So you're saying that they had no power, but the people that lived in the multi-million-dollar complexes had power?
Of course. And a lot of people said they weren't surprised. A lot of people, when I would go in there and talk to the people, they would say, we're scared. We don't want to speak up. We're just trying to survive here. We're just trying to work our 3 jobs. We don't want to ruffle any feathers or, anger, the rich people. And it was really mind-blowing. It was really devastating to hear some of these stories. I had, an elderly Black woman tell me about her evacuation story that, she got evacuated in the middle of the night. She said she's never been treated as awful in her life, like an animal. They rescued them in an open air vehicle. So when they rescued them, it was still raining, hurricaning down on them. They got literally dropped off in a parking lot. They weren't even told where they were. They weren't provided blankets or anything else. They had no cell phones. They had just the clothing on their back. They were terrified. And they were just dropped off in the middle of the hurricane. Yes, they had a roof over their head, but it was a parking lot with open, sides. I mean, just really horrible stories. Really, really horrible stories.
Wow. So what do you think you can do to change that? Because I feel that a lot of us, and me too, we talk, but it's really in the action. And sometimes it starts with little things. And like what you did a GoFundMe, you raised $30,000 to try to do your part in helping people, especially the less fortunate, or, the Black and brown communities that didn't unfortunately have like where you live, because your house was fine, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So what do you feel? I'll ask Haley the question, since you're the next generation of new voters going to be coming in and seeing how the world is. And it's really going to be, I feel, up to you guys to make that change, because sometimes I feel that the older adults get, they get stuck in their ways and they don't want to just hear the other side out. Every side has their point. So Haley, as a young teenager, what do you think we can do to make this world a better place for all people, especially in America?
Mm-hmm. I feel like, as much as, we did our GoFundMe, we helped a lot. I feel like it's all like it's all very internal. And I feel like it really starts it starts with like grassroots organizations, but it really is like fully has the most amount of impact like through government and like through voting. And that's why it's like so important to, I can't vote, but like to go out and vote and like elect people who like will actually help the people. Like everyone's like, oh, I'll help you, I'll do this, like all these, like they give you so many like great hopes and promises, and like it almost never delivers. And I feel like it's really important to have candidates and like hear candidates speak on their platforms and stuff, so you can learn or you can connect with them and be like, well, that's a person that'll help me, and that's a person that I want in my future to help me.
So as Haley, you're young, you're going to be voting, and you're 14, right?
I'm 16.
You're 16, so in 2 years, oh my
Yeah.
God, you're going to be voting in 2024.
Yeah.
Right? Are you going to be 16 before November?
Yeah, I'm already 16, so I'll be 18.
No, I mean, are you going to be 18 before November? So that'll be the first time you're ever going to vote in a presidential election.
Yeah.
So what kind of, the youth are coming up, they're voting. What are you looking for in a president or in a representative? Because they all speak the talking points, right?
Yeah, they always talk the talk, but almost never walk the walk. I guess for me, some of the things that are really important are like women's reproductive rights. That's like a very important issue for me. Yeah, I don't know.
What else is important?
I think also like
think about your future.
Yeah. So also like climate change, definitely a very big thing for me as well. Like this is the world that I'm gonna grow up and like have children in, and my children have children in. But like that won't happen if there's no earth to live on. So that's also like a very pressing issue, I'd say.
Anything that's a pressing issue also for your generation, because you are Generation Z.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think?
Oh, I think the biggest thing also, another big thing is also like gun control and like school shootings, because that happens just so often. Like we were just sitting on the couch and it's always, oh my God, there was another shooting. And I'm like, I just like can't listen to this anymore. It's just like ridiculous how like there has to be so much, like hopes and prayers and, it'll get better, but like it never does. And we just really need people that like, that's a big thing. Cause like I'm scared to go to school when we have lockdown drills and like we don't have warnings about them. It's like, what is this? Like we had a lockdown drill last year and they were like, the teachers had no idea what was going on. We were locked down for an hour with no explanation. Like that's scary. It's really scary. And you don't know when it's the last time you're going to see your parents, when you're going to see your family. And so it's just another really important issue.
And I think with the gun crisis also bleeds into like mental health.
Yeah. Mental health intervention and like that, like mental health in schools, and
a lot of teens are really suffering, especially after COVID and being
Yes, because I think mental health is a new pandemic in our country.
I agree.
It's like, even I was looking for a therapist just for my children, because I don't feel like you only go to a therapist when things are wrong. I think you should go to a therapist when things are fine. You know what I mean? Just to check in. Because I feel like your brain is an organ, and people are forgetting that. People look at mental health and they think it's abstract, but just like you go for your heart and you go for your liver or your kidneys or your breast, because it was just breast cancer month a couple of days ago, your brain is an organ. And to find insurance companies to just cover mental health,
so hard.
I am so shocked, because most of them, I understand, take out of pocket, but a lot of people, especially with inflation going on right now, can't afford to pay out of pocket, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think is going on with the kids? Because I know with the shutdown, it affected my children. How has it affected, your peers?
Yeah. I'd say that, like, for the most part, the kids are not all right. I think that everyone is, like, not everyone, but a lot of people are really struggling ever since, COVID happened, the shutdown made people feel very isolated from, like, friends and also, like, their family members. And then just a lot of my friends, like, have not recovered in school, like, still unable. We were, like, home and remote when we lived in New York for, like, basically, like, 2 full years. People forgot, like, the basic things of school, study patterns and stuff like that. And so, like, kids are really suffering and their grades are suffering. And, like, it's unfortunate that, like, that will impact them in the future when they get into college and stuff like that.
Yeah, it will definitely impact the kids, because my kids are in 4th grade, and they have a study out right now that a lot of kids are even my kids are behind. You know what I mean? Like, the teachers are trying the best to catch them up, because there is a curriculum. But you are right. A lot of the kids kind of, because they were so scared of COVID and catching COVID, and there were people who lost family members, it was a very, like, bad time for a lot of families, because, over 1 million people died. I don't know why people don't want to say that, but
Right.
even my cousin, who's a twin, who's 40 years old, died, rest in peace, of COVID when COVID first came out. So 1 million people died of COVID, right? And so many lives were affected.
Having up again in the winter, so we need to be prepared for, what is this, round 3, round 4? I don't know. I've lost track, but yeah, it's still there. We still need to also.
Yeah. I mean, I personally feel like COVID is going to be like the flu. It's a virus, so it's hard. You don't get rid of viruses. The viruses stay. Just like a common cold, you'll always get a common cold. It's like the flu. It's a virus. People just have to take precautions. And, if you feel comfortable and you feel like you have to wear a mask, like in New York, there are people, especially the elderly, when I go to the supermarket, it's a choice now. You're not mandated to wear a mask, but some of the elderly people, which I understand, wear a mask now because we're entering into flu season right now. It's November 1st, and there's a new strain, and you're never too safe, with this new, there's going to be so many variants and stuff like that. But so we have to deal with mental health.
And the other thing is media. I mean, that's a pandemic in itself, the cesspool that is social media that, they're growing up under, and that is literally so toxic and so detrimental to this generation. It's really awful.
No, you know what? I'm so happy. I was just speaking to someone earlier today that I did not grow up with social media, and I had like the best life. I had the best of times, meaning, like, you remember the saying, Alethea, whatever happened in Cancun stayed in Cancun? That was like our motto, like, because our life wasn't like public to the world, so you could enjoy it, and I could wear the same outfit like 100 times and no one knew it. No one knew it. But now I feel so bad for, your daughter's generation, my daughter's generation, because the comparisons of, watching social media, sometimes as an adult, I'm like, oh my God, I need to work out. Oh my God, I'm getting older. Because you're always comparing yourself, because you see a world that you never saw before. Exactly. You only knew your world, like, that was like surrounded you. How did you meet your husband? Maybe you went to a local bar. Now you can meet your husband on social media, so I can't even imagine the pressures that Haley has.
Yep.
With just having this thing in your phone that you constantly are addicted to look at constantly. And sometimes I feel that what do you do as a generation, Haley? Like, explain it to me. Like, how do you guys deal with having social media in the palm of your hand and dealing with your mental health, dealing with your self-esteem, dealing with, bullying? There's so much that goes on with social media. Just please tell me, Haley, how do you cope and deal with this, and how do your friends deal with it too?
It's like very hard. It's so easy to get like addicted. You're just, you're scrolling on TikTok, and then an hour goes later and you're scrolling and you're like looking at people. Oh my God, I wish I had their clothes. I wish I had this. I wish I had that. And it's like very toxic. It's like I've definitely found myself doing that a lot, comparing myself to other people on social media, or like people are sharing like things about how they're getting into college, being like, oh, I need to do that. Like, it's constant reminders of like flaws about yourself, flaws, I don't know, in school, with your friends, with sports. Like, it's just a very toxic place. So I feel like the best thing for me is just like knowing when to shut it off. You see yourself like you're just comparing too much, it's getting like a loophole. You just have to turn it off. So like I have all of my notifications off. I keep my phone on do not disturb all day, and it honestly helps me a lot better. Like, I'm not on my phone as much, but there are times when you are, like when it's late at night and you don't want to go to bed, but you don't want to do homework, you're just scrolling and scrolling. But it's definitely very hard. But it's like knowing, I guess, like it almost has to be some sort of like breaking point. And I feel like,
and it's not going away, so we're gonna have to learn how to live with it. Trying to shield your kids from it completely is also not unrealistic. You have to kind of teach healthy boundaries and healthy social media and internet usage.
Because you know what it is, social media is addictive, and that's why I want to transfer to. I have a day coming up. It was approved in New York, but I'm trying to get the country on board. It's called Self-Love Day. So I wanted to ask Haley, because I'm doing it really for the youth. Because it's accepting who you are. I mean, Haley, you're beautiful 16-year-old, you know what I mean? And you're your own unique person. And that's the only reason why I don't like social media, because everyone wants to copy someone. And I just believe in the strength of, you came in here as a unique person to change the world and with a purpose. So I just think you're perfect just the way you are. And that's why, like, I want to talk about, what does self-love mean to you? Because I think with the mental health going on, we need to get kids to start understanding that who they are is okay, who they are. And the world needs to accept people for who they are. So when you think about self-love, like, what does that mean to you? And I'm going to ask you, Alethea, next. What does self-love mean to you?
Me, self-love is like loving yourself unconditionally, things that you can change and things that you can't change.
And what do you love about yourself?
I love that I'm like very ambitious. I'm hardworking in school. It's like that's very important to me, that I'm a very caring person, and I sometimes put other people before myself, like my friends, but that could be, good or bad. Yeah, those are some of the things I love about myself. I also love.
And Alethea, what does self-love mean to you?
It means just, loving yourself and not depending on the affirmations of other people. And for me, that means just always like staying authentic to myself. And despite, the critics or the haters, they're going to criticize you either way. So you might as well just be yourself. And I feel like my name, Alethea, means truth. And I feel like I always speak the truth. And I have this saying that I love, and it's speak the truth, even if your voice shakes. And so, a lot of the people I look up to are always speaking truth to power. And it's really, really hard. And it takes a lot of confidence and courage to do it. But I also think that courage is contagious. And so when you see other people doing it, it gives you the strength. And so for me, loving myself is just feeling confident in my voice and just being confident in everything I do and trying to not live with regrets.
Because Alethea, you're an activist for the people. You are always there for the people who doesn't have a voice.
Yes.
And you step in to make sure their voices are heard.
Yes.
So I want to say I'm so proud of you, sis. I'm so proud of you, sis, both of you sisters, because sometimes, you have to march to a different drum. You got to march to the drum that you feel in your heart. Yep. And what makes you move. And it's like with social media, sometimes you question yourself because it's all about followers. And you feel like if you're doing it alone, then you feel like maybe I'm doing something wrong because people are not following here. So you being an activist, Alethea, and promoting and not even promoting, but helping so many people who don't have that voice. How does that self-love come into play? Because you live in a very affluent community, and I know there might be people there like, why do you even bother?
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
So how does that make you feel? Like, do you still feel that even though I am living in this community of everyone is doing well, very affluent, you still hear that voice that you have to still help the people who are not being heard? Because you could be living you could not care, sit at home, hey, there's a hurricane. Oh, well, they'll figure it out. So what gives you that conviction and that purpose in your heart to feel that you need to speak up for them?
I just feel like while I have a comfortable life now, growing up, I didn't grow up with a lot of money. And so I've never forgotten where I've come from. And so to me, it's very important that when you get to the top of the elevator, you send it back down to people. And I just don't feel like I'm better than anybody. And one of the biggest things that I learned from Bernie Sanders' campaign is that it's important to fight for someone you don't know. And I recognize that I could be on top of the world one day, but tomorrow I could be bankrupt. And I just hope that someone's going to fight for me because I have these privileges. I'm a stay-at-home mom. And so, before I became woke, I was wrapped up in that life of tennis and lunches. And then I realized that's a real waste of time. And so, for me, it's really important to use my privileges to fight on behalf of those who don't feel like they have a voice, or they're scared to use their voice, or for whatever reason need someone to speak up for them. And it's really lonely. And sometimes I do question it. Is it worth it? Is anybody even listening to me? I could post what I think is one of the best takes or explanations, and I'll get 5 likes. And I'm like, I don't understand. This is one of the best things I've ever written. Does anybody care? Why am I wasting my time? A lot of it does feel like a big waste. It really does. But a lot of times I do get to see the fruits of my labor. And this hurricane was a really good reminder that my work is important and that people do appreciate it. And that, we have an election coming up, and that, people don't feel like they should vote because they're not energized and they're not excited about.
And why do you think people are not energized?
Because I think that not only are we electing the wrong candidates, we are putting up the wrong candidates that are just doing the same old shtick that does not work. And that's why a lot of people have left the Democrat Party. And that's why a lot of people don't vote. And it's like, when are we going to learn already? We need to have, big personalities that are inspiring people to actually get out and vote. Because a lot of the people I spoke to during this hurricane said they don't vote because it doesn't matter, or that they're afraid of making the wrong choices. And that was really eye-opening for me. And so we're not giving them a reason to get out and vote. And then when the people did have a reason to get out and vote in 2020, we didn't even deliver what we were saying we were going to do. And so it's a mess. It's really a mess. But getting out and vote this time for me, while did I have, the president I wanted? No. Did, my list of, hopes and dreams get checked off? No. A lot of great things happened in the last 2 years. But for me, this election really is about harm reduction. And it's about stopping the bleed, because democracy is really, really, really on the ballot this election. And if people don't get out and vote, this is really it. This is it. I mean, we are slipping so quickly into fascism, violence. I'm really, really scared. And so while, the candidates might not be amazing, I at least know the other candidates are insane and violent. And it worries me. And it worries me, especially with the Black and brown communities. We have so much hatred and racism and anti-Semitism and bigotry and anti-LGBT sentiment in America. It's just awful. people just want to live with dignity and respect and equality. And it's just really important that you use your voice, and your voice is your vote, and it's free. It's you can go vote early right now. There's really no excuse. If you're not voting, you're really just throwing away your vote. And it seems it's like a privilege to just throw away your vote. Some people don't have that privilege. Like, to them, this election is do or die. Like, a lot of people can die from the results of this because they don't have health care or, affordable housing or a living wage. So this is a really, really important election. I know they say that every time, but this could be it. Yeah. This could be it.
Well, the only message we can tell people is, please, every American, you have the right to go and vote. Please exercise your right to
and you have a
vote.
Do your research. Research your candidate.
Yes, you can do your research on every candidate. You don't have to say, I don't watch TV, so you don't have to listen to the commercials. You can go and you have your phone, you can do your own research, and you can vote the best candidate that fits, your interests, or sometimes your community interests. It just depends on how it falls. But please, every vote counts, and I want everyone to please go out and vote. Whoever you vote for, it doesn't really matter. It's just go and exercise the right to vote, because that's why you are an American. Because that's one thing that we do in our democracy is vote our leaders in. Whether we like them or not, just please go out and vote. And I want to thank you so much, Alethea Shapiro, and her lovely daughter, Haley, for coming on I'm Proud of You Sis. I want to bring you your flowers. Thank you so much for helping the people in need in Hurricane Ian in Florida. And Haley, I just want to say thank you so much. You are the future. So, we adults are going to be looking at you guys to hopefully make this world a better place. So I'm so excited for your generation to come up, because here's my dog. He's ready to eat. See, say Brownie. I'm just so excited about your generation to come up and vote in 2024, because that's going to be a very interesting election cycle. But thank you so much for coming on. I'm proud of you, sis. I am so proud of both of you guys. And here's my dog. Hey, Brown. Hey, Brown. Hey. Brown is ready for me. He's ready to go out. Right, Brown? Yes, baby. Yes, baby. But thank you so much for coming on. I'm proud of you, sis, everybody. Please like, share, follow, and see you guys soon. Bye. Bye, everybody. Thank you for coming on I'm Proud of You.